news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@kbla1580.com. That's advertising at kbla1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got you Black.
In the midst of sorrow, you can be up and looking down. A light of day tomorrow will bring. Oh, you hear the voice of freedom, telling you this can't be done. No matter how hard reality seems, just hold on to your dreams, yeah.
You can win as long as you keep your head to the sky. Yeah, I'm singing along. And hopefully you are too. Live from our nation's capital, you're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and chief national political analyst. I'm in touch each and every weekday, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. That's DrNiiQuartelai. Also, a pro tip, just type in Dr. Nee and boom, bam, boom. There I am for your listening pleasure. I'm laughing at a note from my producer, Robert. Every day we begin the show with Optimistic by Sounds of Blackness. And he's saying, when are we going to have Sounds of Blackness on the show? Well, look, Sounds of Blackness, if you're listening, you have an open invitation to join us here any time. To Robert's point, with all this free promotion that we are giving you for your song, we send our love. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and like magic, there we are. Finally, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast, and you'll never, ever, ever miss an episode. Summertime is around the corner. I know some of you may be planning road trips or, staycations, whatever it is. We're good company. And so subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. Remember, this is your one-stop shop to get your national political digest from the White House to your house. And so be sure to tap on in. It is time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And just as we were coming on air, some breaking news reported that Marilyn Mosby, the former top prosecutor in Baltimore City, will not be going to prison. Reports that she has been sentenced for time served, followed by 3 years of supervised release, 12 months of home confinement for her 2 federal perjury convictions, and for 1 mortgage fraud served concurrently. And so as more information becomes available this hour, we'll be sure to share with you. We'll also be sure to get our guest, Areva Martin, her take on this late breaking news. But it looks like Marilyn Mosby will not be going to jail. I know a lot of folks have been organizing to try and get her a pardon from President Biden, and it looks like she won't be needing that pardon because she will not be going to jail. That news just coming in as we joined you on the air. Moving along in other news, a political consultant behind the Biden robocalls faces a $6 million fine. That's right, a political consultant who sent artificial intelligence generated robocalls mimicking President Biden's voice to voters ahead of the New Hampshire presidential primary faces a $6 million fine and more than 24 criminal charges. I guess he may not be getting a presidential pardon either. The Federal Communications Commission said that the fine it proposed today for Stephen Kramer is its first involving generative AI technology. The company accused of transmitting the calls, Lingo Telecom, faces a $2 million fine, though in both cases the parties could settle or further negotiate. That's according to the FCC. Kramer has admitted to orchestrating a message that was sent to thousands of voters 2 days before the first in the nation primary on January 23rd. The message played an AI-generated voice similar to the Democratic presidents that used his phrase, "What a bunch of malarkey," and falsely suggested that voting in the primary would preclude voters from casting ballots in November. In other news, the Supreme Court has okayed a shift of Black voters to shore up GOP congressional districts. The LA Times is reporting that the Supreme Court ruled today that state's map makers may shift tens of thousands of Black voters to a different district if they were seeking to shore up a partisan advantage for a Republican candidate. In a 6-3 decision, the justices upheld a redistricting map drawn by South Carolina's Republican legislature and overturned a lower ruling that called it a stark racial gerrymander. At issue was whether the state legislators drew the districts for political or racial reasons. All 6 Republican appointees were in the majority and said the legislators were motivated by partisan concerns, while the 3 Democratic appointees, surprise, surprise, dissented and said voters were shifted based on their race. In the past, the court has said that partisan gerrymandering is legal and as old as the nation, but racial gerrymandering is discriminatory and unconstitutional. The justices reasoned that the Constitution permits elected officials to make decisions based on political considerations, but the 14th Amendment forbids the government from making decisions based on race. So is this a case of the glass half full or the glass half empty? I don't know, but it looks like a party line vote, yet another party line vote coming out of the U.S. Supreme Court. UCLA protesters erect new pro-Palestinian encampment in defiance of the university. The LA Times is reporting that the pro-Palestinian protesters launched a new encampment on UCLA's campus today, weeks after their initial camp was violently attacked by counter-protesters and then dismantled by police. Photos of the new encampment showed at least 2 tents on the Kirchhoff patio Thursday morning. Students said that the private security and UCLA police were on site, apparently to keep the camp from growing. The Los Angeles Police Department issued a citywide tactical alert today, really just this morning, to keep officers on duty in case authorities were called to the campus. Officials blocked access to Ackerman Union, Kirchhoff Hall, and Moore Hall because of the encampment, and morning classes held in those buildings were shifted online, according to public safety alerts issued to the campus. The encampment comes on the same day that the UCLA Chancellor, Gene Block, who's led the university amid months of tense protests over the Israel-Hamas war, testified before a congressional hearing on campus anti-Semitism. And once we get a readout from that testimony on Capitol Hill, we'll be sure to share that with you in the near future. And finally, Biden is honoring Kenya as they prepare to send police to Haiti. That's right. President Joe Biden welcomed Kenyan President William Ruto to the White House for a 3-day state visit and designating the East African nation a major non-NATO ally as it prepares to deploy forces to Haiti as a part of a UN-led effort to address the security crisis in the Caribbean country. Some 1,000 Kenyan police officers are set to arrive soon in Haiti, part of a multilateral security support mission that aims to help quell gang violence. Other countries expected to back up Kenya's forces include the Bahamas, Barbados, Benin, Chad, and Bangladesh. The largely symbolic designation by Biden was described by U.S. officials on conditions of anonymity to preview an announcement that will come later during Ruto's state visit, which began with a White House meeting Wednesday afternoon. Just this morning, I was at the White House for the opening ceremony honoring the president of Kenya and first lady of Kenya. And then right after, I had a chance to participate in the first lady's press pool. She took the first lady of Kenya around Washington, D.C. and visited a few stops, including a DC Advanced Technical Center where there are young people, mostly young Black and brown people that, are learning cybersecurity, and they're learning, they're enrolled in the nursing program and other programs concurrently while they're in high school. It was really cool. And then we went over to Johns Hopkins University, their satellite campus in Washington, D.C., to learn about some of the work that's afoot related to the Biden Moonshot program that's affiliated with the Sidney Kimmel Cancer Institute over at Johns Hopkins here in DC. And so we'll be chatting a little bit more about that. But, you may be wondering, wait a minute, okay, this is great, but why should we care about what's happening in Kenya? And next week, we're going to have an expert on the region join us to answer exactly that question. But I can tell you from what I heard this morning, there's a huge focus on sustainability, really sustainable development and prosperity. Some key issues that have already been raised include the mounting debt burden that's been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic in Kenya. Also, issues related to food insecurity and how that crisis is being fueled by the Russian war against Ukraine, and also debt distress. We don't talk enough about this, but the issue of debt distress. For example, there's a growing number of developing countries where their debt payments to the rest of the world are greater than the new financing that many of them are able to get for their countries. And so what that means is they're in a tight spot where it's a choice between paying their creditors or making critical investments in their economy. And by that, I mean investing in vaccines for kids, investing in their food systems, investing in some of the damaging effects of the climate crisis, et cetera. And so next week, we will have an expert on to help us delve deeper into this issue, because what happens in November doesn't just affect our households here in the United States, but it affects people around the world, and dare I say, across the African diaspora. And speaking of the African diaspora, we know the issue related to reparations, it continues. And our very own Areva Martin is one of those leaders on the front lines. It's made it her business to do something about it. When we come forward, we're going to be talking with CNN legal analyst and host of Areva Martin in Real Time right here on KBLA. We're talking to Areva about the latest advancements in the case involving the families that are connected to the Section 14 civil rights action that is afoot in Palm Springs, California. You don't want to miss it. More with Areva Martin when we come forward.
The station you turn to when you had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Tavis Smiley here. We're getting closer to June 18th, and time is running out for you to register to join us for our historic symposium live on C-SPAN, Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at kbla1580.com right now if you want to be in the audience when the nation will see for the first time ever a stage full of brilliant Black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's all going down. Well, it's actually all going up. Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. live from the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Again, admission is free, but we're filling up fast. So if I were you, I would log on right now to kbla1580.com to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Ew, gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a Samsung Galaxy A14 included with the activation of a Silver Unlimited plan. So you can give your janky phone to your kid.
Switch to Straight Talk. Find us at Walmart and straighttalk.com. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com. Requires in-store activation. Device offer ends 6/9/24. Taxes and fees apply.
We used to argue about whose turn it was to clean the gutters, but then I had Leaf Filter gutter protection installed.
Wait, I told you Leaf Filter had free inspections and estimates and a lifetime guarantee.
Meaning we never have to argue about whose turn it is to clean the gutters again.
But I visited leaffilter.com/beacon first.
No, I did.
It doesn't matter who. Visit leaffilter.com/beacon to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off today.
See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. 1 discount per household.
When you use Bounce dryer sheets and your clothes look amazing, it's the sheet. Less static in your life? Yeah, it's the sheet. Smelling fresher than ever? It's the sheet. Oh, so soft fabric? Ooh la la. It's the sheet. Less wrinkles on your clothes? You know it's the sheet. Bounce dryer sheets. More freshness, more softness. Less static, less wrinkles. It's the sheet.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. And when we first began this broadcast, we shared with you a little bit of breaking news related to Marilyn Mosby. We want to follow up on that and give you just a little bit more information as it's becoming available. CNN reporting that ex-Baltimore prosecutor Marilyn Mosby avoids prison time for perjury and false mortgage fraud convictions. A federal judge has sentenced Marilyn Mosby, Baltimore's former top prosecutor, to time served, as well as 3 years of supervised release and 12 months of home confinement served concurrently for mortgage fraud and perjury. This according to reports from CNN affiliate WBAL-TV, who was in court earlier today. Mosby, who gained national prominence for charging 6 police officers in connection with the 2015 death of Freddie Gray in a police van, was convicted of making a false mortgage application and perjury. U.S. prosecutors asked the court to sentence Mosby, who's only 44 years old, to 20 months in prison. That's what the prosecutors asked for, followed by a supervised release. That's according to a May 9th sentencing memorandum. And that sentence, the memo says, would, quote, make clear that those who break the law, including those in positions of public trust, will be held accountable. Now, attorneys for Mosby, who claim that she's innocent and that the charges against her are straight up politically motivated. That's what they argued in their May 16th response, saying that she, quote, has been punished enough, asking for a sentence of time served with 1 year of supervised release. And so in addition to Thursday's sentencing hearing, the one that happened just today, the U.S. District Judge ordered Mosby to forfeit 90% of her interest in her Florida condo connected to her conviction on making false mortgage application. A preliminary order filed today authorized the government to seize the property, and once sold, Mosby would receive up to $47,600 plus 10% of the home's appreciation value. And so, joining us right now, I'm really delighted to welcome, my friend and colleague, CNN legal analyst and host of Areva Martin in Real Time, right here on KBLA Talk 1580. I give you Areva Martin.
Hello, my friend. Hello, my friend. Good to see you, and thank you so much for having me.
No worries, no worries. Good to see you too. Just as we were going on air today, news broke about Marilyn Mosby, the ex-Baltimore prosecutor. As you know, there are a number of civil rights groups that were out there really pushing President Biden to pardon Marilyn Mosby. It doesn't look like she's going to need that pardon because judge has rendered a verdict, or I'm sorry, the judge has sentenced her to time served. What's your hot take on this breaking story?
Well, I'm glad. I'm very glad because Marilyn Mosby was a rising star amongst prosecutors. She was one of the youngest prosecutors in her state. She defied police officers by charging officers in the tragic death of Freddie Gray. And I didn't want the president to have to wade into this. This is just messy, no way to put it. We watched Abbott pardon a racist who killed someone during a Black Lives Matter protest. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, if Abbott should do it, Biden should do it. This is an election year. And obviously the Black vote is very, very important to the president. And this case had some issues that are really thorny. Nii, I did not want Marilyn Mosby to spend a single solitary day in jail. So I'm very happy about that. But, her claim is that she was racially targeted, that this was a political prosecution. And I don't know the facts of it. But what I do know, and why I say I'm glad Biden didn't have to get into it, the prosecuting attorney was an African-American lawyer appointed by our only and first African-American president. The judge in one of these cases was an African-American woman. So it's just not, it's not the clean, racially targeted case that we typically hear about. So everybody, dodged a bullet today. Thank goodness Marilyn Mosby doesn't have to spend a day in jail. And thank goodness Joe Biden doesn't have to get in this mess.
Well, thank you for that. Speaking of issues that the president hasn't quite touched, reparations is one of them, and you are one of the leaders in our country on the front lines. There was a New York Times article written just earlier this week that featured you, entitled "Their Palm Springs neighborhood burned more than 50 years ago. They want compensation." We're talking about the Black and Latino families of Section 14 who made up much of the labor force of Palm Springs, and they're asking for reparations for what they say was a racially motivated attack. You have been on this case for some time now. What's the latest development in this case?
Well, thank you for allowing me an opportunity to continue to lift the voices of my almost 1,000 clients in Palm Springs, California. They have been on the front lines fighting for reparative justice for 2 years now. And since we last had a conversation, Dr. Nii, there was a significant breakthrough in the case. And that breakthrough was the city going beyond its initial apology of 2 years ago and actually putting forth some money. making an offer, about $4.5 million cash offer. Now, the way they got to that offer, we believe is seriously flawed. We believe the amount of money, the $4.5 million, is woefully inadequate. So not at all at a point where we can say, hallelujah, shout hallelujah, this matter has been resolved. But in any settlement negotiations, you've got to start someplace. And when you have a defendant who is insistent that they owe you zero, it's hard to get to the right place. And that's where we were for 2 years. So to have the city move from that zero to we give you nothing but an apology and go on your way, to put forth, some serious, $4 million, $4+ million, it's not chump change. It's not insignificant, particularly where they were. So we're encouraged. We have since talked to the city, or submitted, I should say, a counteroffer, correcting the flaws that we see in the way that the city got to its $4.5 million offer. And we're hoping that we will continue conversations and negotiations, and that in short order, we told the city, look, Juneteenth is coming up in less than a month. Wouldn't it be a historic win and victory for this city council in Palm Springs, for the residents of Palm Springs, for us to be in front of City Hall on Juneteenth, Wednesday, June 19th, celebrating the first reparative justice plan of its kind in the state of California. We believe in the nation. So, we've given the city an opportunity to make history, and we hope they take us up on our offer.
Well, we're going to stay on top of this. And as there is movement related to this case, Ariva, we want to make sure that you come back to give our leaders, learners, and listeners an update, because we share that vision for you, that there's an opportunity for the city of Palm Springs to be a powerful demonstration for our country in terms of what reparations can look like for a community of Black and Latino families that have been harmed and have been robbed of generational wealth, among other things. When we come forward, we're digging deeper into some more headlines with Ariva Martin, the host of Ariva Martin in Real Time, right here on KBLA Talk 1580. That's when you don't see her on CNN as legal analyst doing her thing. More with Ariva when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Massachusetts Institute of Technology is getting hit with a civil rights complaint over its program designated for women of color. The Equal Protection Project claims the program's eligibility requirements are openly, racially, and sexually discriminatory. The Creative Regal Women of Knowledge program is marketed to women belonging to minorities and transgender women and non-binary participants. It aims to give networking opportunities and financial assistance to women of color. The EPP alleges the program violates Title IX. A senior advisor to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is leaving his independent presidential campaign because of what she calls a hateful and divisive atmosphere. Angela Stanton King announced her departure as the campaign's head of Black voter outreach, saying the campaign no longer aligns with her values. King wrote on social media that she will continue to advise Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on key community issues. She was one of Kennedy's top advisors on the issue of abortion. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Robert Half research indicates 9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring. Robert Half is here to help. Their recruiting professionals use proprietary AI to connect businesses with highly skilled talent. At Robert Half, they know talent. Visit roberthalf.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Major League Baseball is trying to improve the number of American Black players on the pro level, but the percentages keep dropping. The Institute for Diversity and Ethics in Sports, a research group based at Central Florida University, released their data today on the current number of Black players on Major League rosters this season. Only 6% of the players on MLB's 30 teams are Black. That's down from 6.2% in 2023 and 7.2% in 2022. When the Institute first started tracking these numbers in 1991, 18% of Major League players were Black. MLB still has some work to do to get more Black players in the game. The Lakers aren't the only NBA team looking for a head coach. Cleveland fired J.B. Bickerstaff today. The Cavaliers won 99 games over the past 2 seasons with Bickerstaff and made it to the second round of the playoffs this year. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio, but music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Have you been a victim or witness to hate or discrimination? Contact the California vs. Hate hotline to report the incident by calling 833-8-NO-HATE or visit cavshate.org. They'll help you access resources and support, including legal, financial, mental health, and mediation services. California vs. Hate is not affiliated with the police, and you can report anonymously. Use your voice. Report hate by calling 833-8-NO-HATE or visit cavshate.org. Res Radio 91.3.
This is DIR Silica, spot title, Many Homeowners, 30-second English radio, ISKI code DSM H0430, April 30th, 2024.
Many homeowners and businesses use man-made stone as an alternative to traditional stone for their countertops. Handling these products puts workers' lives at risk. Without proper conditions, workers could die from the terminal lung disease silicosis. Employers must supply respiratory protection and water systems. It's essential to wet stone when cutting it to prevent breathing in dust. Do away with dusty, deadly practices. Visit WorkSafeWithSilica.org. This is a message from Cal OSHA.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Find a righteous rage, and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and delighted to be in conversation with my friend and colleague, Ariva Martin, the host of Ariva Martin in Real Time, right here on KBLA Talk 1580. That's when you don't see her on CNN as a very distinguished legal analyst or as a civil rights attorney on the front lines, fighting for justice for Black and brown residents in the city of Palm Springs. The Section 14 case is being led by her, and we're glad to have her here. Welcome, Ariva.
Thank you, Dr. Nee. Glad to be here.
Yes, and so there's so many headlines out there. We wanted to get your hot take on a number of them. NPR is reporting that 2024 Atlantic hurricane season will be extraordinary. That's what the forecasters are warning. They're saying that this year's hurricane season is expected to be extremely active, putting tens of millions of Americans in the eastern half of the country at risk from flooding and damaging winds. Forecasters at the National Hurricane Center warn. And the increased activity is partially caused by abnormally warm ocean temperatures driven by climate change. Certainly, our leaders, learners, and listeners in Los Angeles know a little bit about this. When hurricane turned tropical storm Hillary hit Los Angeles, I think there are still a number of residents that are still wrestling with getting their insurance claims taken care of in LA. Talk to us a little bit about how you see this playing out as we get closer to the November election. I mean, right now, there are people who feel some kind of way about government, but I always think, they feel some kind of way until you're upside down and in need of an intervention that only the government can provide. How do you square this highly active hurricane season with what will be a hyperactive political season?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Dr. Nee, because sometimes folks, they have selective amnesia, I'll call it, about what the government has done for them or the need that they have for the government. And when we have a natural disaster like a hurricane, a tornado, a flood, FEMA is the organization that rushes in to provide housing and shelter and loans and other assistance, in addition to some of the nonprofits that do so as well. But the government plays a huge role in not just helping homeowners, but helping businesses and cities and governments, get restored. And I think we can't think about this hurricane season without thinking about climate change. You saw the horrible plane catastrophe, the turbulence that caused someone to lose their life recently. And I was listening to a climate expert say that those kinds of plane, it's not a plane crash, but those kind of plane incidents where you have loss of life and severe injuries because of turbulence are going to happen more often because of climate change issues and climate issues. So when we think about this election, I think it's important to think about the party that believes that climate change is real and that is spending billions and billions of dollars to address climate issues versus that party, i.e. the Republican Party, that in many parts of that party won't even deny that climate change is real and definitely is not committed to spending the kind of resources to address climate issues. So I think this hurricane season, the devastation that hurricanes cause, the devastation caused by, climate change issues across this country should be and are front and center in this election. And folks need to pay attention to it.
And speaking of making investments, NPR is also reporting that a billionaire surprised graduates on stage with cash. But guess what? It's not all theirs to keep. Graduating students at UMass Dartmouth left their commencement ceremonies with more than just their diplomas after one of the speakers surprised them with envelopes stuffed with hundreds of dollars in cash. But the caveat, it's not all theirs to keep. Hale, the billionaire co-founder and president of Massachusetts-based Granite Telecommunications and part owner of the Boston Celtics, was on stage during the rainy ceremony on Thursday and said, look, they can have the money. There's just one stipulation. The first $500 is our gift to you. The second $500 is for you to give to somebody else or another organization who could use it more than you. I know you are a proud mama of some Columbia University graduates. I'm not sure if they got this kind of cash from a benefactor on graduation day, but what do you make of this?
I was thrilled to see that story. We're seeing that happen more and more. Billionaires who are, sharing their largesse in different ways, whether they're making huge donations to, Black colleges or doing the way this billionaire did as the commencement speaker at UMass Dartmouth, giving these students, it was $1,000, Dr. Nee, in these envelopes. And $500, as you said, they got to keep. The other $500 they had to give away to another organization. But what better way to show students the value of not just earning money, but using that money to support and help those in need. Now, I was at Columbia's graduation for my two daughters. No one gave them envelopes full of cash on stage, but they got the gift of education. And I always tell my daughters, I tell any person, who's getting their education, people can take away a lot of things from you. You can lose your money, your billions, your millions, but your education is something that will remain with you for your entire life. And that's what makes it so valuable and so worth the effort and the student loans and the late nights and all the stress that students go through this graduating season. I really hope students really internalize how important it is to be educated in this country. Really, really important. So they got a big gift. They got the gift of education.
And speaking of the gift of education, just earlier this week, we had former Columbia, South Carolina mayor and White House Director of Public Engagement, Steve Benjamin, on to share a few pretty major announcements. The fact that President Biden, the Biden-Harris administration, has crossed the 200 mark in terms of the number of federal judges that they have confirmed by this United States Senate. Talk to us as our resident legal mind, how significant that is to have, to meet that kind of milestone and have a record number of Black women in particular that have been appointed federal judges more than every president combined. How significant is that?
Dr. Nee, again, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, the Biden-Harris administration ain't doing nothing. They ain't done nothing for Black people. And this is a receipt. This is a receipt that shows this president, not more than Trump, not more than Clinton, not more than Obama, more than any president in our history. That is the record of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, in terms of their appointment of Black women to the federal bench. That is huge. We know Democrats don't typically pay the kind of attention to the courts and the appointment of judges as Republicans. So to have this Democratic administration have this record on judges is incredible. I mean, this is on top of Ketanji Brown Jackson. This is on top of the diversity in this White House. This means that if Biden gets a second term, he will have 200 more plus judges to appoint. We could start to see some parity, some equity on our federal bench, something that has not happened ever in this country. Again, another reason why folks should be excited about this administration.
And to your point, look, there are a lot of Republicans that will hold their nose and they will vote for Trump simply because they know what that means in terms of his power to appoint judges, right? And so there are a lot of people who didn't like his tough talk. They didn't like his character. They thought he was lacking of integrity, but they still voted for him anyway because they knew that he would appoint folks to the Supreme Court that they were aligned with. And so surprise, surprise, what was it, just yesterday, day before yesterday, Nikki Haley comes out and says, guess who she's voting for? Donald Trump. For all that,
gotta hold her nose.
All that tough talk, she is voting for Trump.
Yeah, no surprise there, Dr. Nee, no surprise. And you're right. Democrats, sometimes we have these high moral standards. We don't like what the president is doing in Gaza. We don't like that he didn't get everything done that he promised to get done. And Republicans just fall in line. Democrats think we got to fall in love. And if Nikki Haley can fall in line after she criticized and said Trump was unhinged and unfit, I think Democrats need to figure out a way to fall in line as well.
When we come forward, we're digging more into the headlines. In fact, we're going to give Ariva the chance to share the quiet part out loud related to a story that really hit my radar and I believe should be on the radar of all of us. I'm talking about Cassie, who has spoken out after the release of Sean Combs' assault video. Ariva Martin was on air shortly thereafter when that terrible video was released by CNN late last week. I want to give Ariva a chance to respond to Cassie's statement just coming out today. More with Ariva Martin right here on A More Perfect Union when we come forward.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the Amera I Can Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the Amera I Can program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera I Can Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriICanCommunity.partners. That's AmeriICanCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer's suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8-count pack.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We are your one-stop shop, your national political digest, complete with expert analysis and leaders from the front lines. And we are delighted to welcome back one of those leaders, Areva Martin. She is the host of Areva Martin in Real Time right here on KBLA Talk 1580, also a distinguished civil rights leader. And last week, I had a chance, as anybody who follows Areva on social media, to see her CNN interview in response to Diddy's apology that he posted to social media. Well, guess what? While we've been on air, I've learned that Cassie has spoken out after the release of that Sean Combs assault video. The Washington Post is reporting that Cassie Ventura thanked her supporters and spoke out against domestic violence today in the singer's first statement since the release of the 2016 footage that showed her being brutally assaulted by Sean Diddy Combs. She said, quotes, "The outpouring of love has created a place for my younger self to settle and feel safe now, but this is only the beginning." She said, "Domestic violence is the issue. It broke me down to someone I never thought I would become. With a lot of hard work, I'm better today, but I will always be recovering from my past." Areva, your reaction?
I am so inspired by Cassie on so many different levels. First, that she had the strength and courage to file that lawsuit in November of last year, to finally come forward and tell the world what she had experienced as a girlfriend, as an intimate partner of Sean Diddy Combs, to tell the world what many of us had heard only as rumors for decades, and then to now speak out after we watched that video. I can't even imagine how triggering that must have been for her. She lived through that. We watched it, and women I know said they couldn't sleep, they couldn't eat, they were nauseous. It just was so incredibly horrific. But it couldn't be any worse for us watching than the person who actually went through it. And for her to still be standing, she's gotten married, she's had kids, and for her to speak up and find her voice, I mean, it takes a level of strength that's really unimaginable. And she's doing it not just for herself, clearly, but she's making a statement for every domestic violence victim who has been where she was, which is in a place where you are either fearful or you've been brainwashed into protecting the man. You're shamed, you feel shame, you feel humiliation, you feel so many emotions. So I just say kudos to you, Cassie. Keep finding your voice, keep using that voice, and keep being a model for those women and men, but mostly women who are still trapped in violent relationships with predators like Diddy.
And speaking of being a model for men and women, you're the mother of two beautiful, brilliant young Black women. What have you said to your daughters about this incident between Cassie and Diddy?
What we talk a lot about is the imbalance of power and the influence of money in our society, because oftentimes in these relationships Cassie was 19, he was 10, 15 years older than her. There was an imbalance of power in terms of, at socioeconomics, and making sure that my daughters understand that they don't need anyone to take care of them, that money is fleeting, and that you don't, allow yourself to get enticed or induced into a relationship when there is that lure of money and power. And then also talking a lot about emotional abuse, Dr. Nee. What we watched on that tape was physical abuse, someone being kicked and hit and drugged down, dragged by their hair, basically. But on top of all of that physical abuse, most of those types of relationships where there's domestic violence, there's a ton of emotional abuse, gaslighting, manipulation, brainwashing that occurs as well. And those are the scars that sometimes you'll hear experts say are harder to overcome. Even, you can go get your eye patch, you can, deal with the physical injury, but the years and years that many women suffer in terms of emotional abuse can be as difficult to overcome. So I talk to my daughters a lot about that and the signs of it, knowing the signs. These things are cumulative in nature, and typically gaslighters, manipulators like Diddy, they have a pattern. And I try to show my daughters what those patterns are.
Is it possible that we might see those patterns in a court of law and see people put on the stand? We know that Combs has been named as a co-defendant in a separate lawsuit accusing his son, Christian Combs, of sexual assault. And then remember, the Department of Homeland Security raided two of his homes in March in connection with a sex trafficking investigation. And so, is there anything that you see sort of around the corner based upon, the collection of evidence and what's been reported in the press, where the posting of this apology video might have been a part of a mitigation strategy on the part of Sean Diddy Combs?
Well, you mean his apology video?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, that trash, you mean? No, nobody was, I don't think anybody thought anything of that. You can't 2 months earlier say that all of this was a money grab, vehemently deny the allegations, basically, again, try to gaslight the public that, you're somehow being targeted because you're rich and people are just out to get money, and then come back and say you were at the darkest places of your life and you're sorry. So I think he's a non-issue for the most part. In terms of criminal charges, the LA district attorney came out and said, well, the assault we saw in that video is beyond the statute of limitations. So they didn't have any ability to charge him. But you did mention that federal raid, and feds for human trafficking might see evidence of all of the abuse that he has perpetrated on women brought into a court of law as a part of a larger case that could be filed against him. Now, obviously, we don't know where that federal investigation is. We don't know if it will result in charges. But I'm sure that there is an appetite amongst prosecutors to find a way to hold Sean Diddy Combs accountable, and not just through the civil courts and out of court settlements with non-disclosure agreements and the payments of millions of dollars. His conduct is criminal, and I know prosecutors, they want to prosecute crimes.
Well, on a lighter note, let me finish with this. The Grio's reporting that Black Girls Tennis Club is shifting court culture and Black female wellness through the sport. The Black girls and women interested in tennis are finding a safe space to explore and feel liberated through the sport at Black Girls Tennis Club, a nonprofit organization founded in Norfolk, Virginia. See, the idea of the Black Girls Tennis Club, founded by Kimberly Selden and Virginia Thornton, it began to take shape after the two bonded over their shared love for the sport during a December 2021 conversation. Thornton's father taught her how to play tennis during her childhood, while Selden picked up the hobby as an adult. The lack of inclusivity and representation that they experienced on the court and within the often exclusive culture of tennis compelled them to come together to make a change. We've certainly heard Venus and Serena Williams talk about this during their rise as international tennis champions. And so we salute you. We salute you. We wanted to end on a bright note. And we always want to celebrate the people that are doing the heavy lifting to make this a more perfect union in every which way. And so to the Black Girls Tennis Club in Norfolk, Virginia, guess what? We see you. Keep swinging for the fences. That's all the time we have. My thanks to the Village that helps us to produce a more perfect union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer extraordinaire, Miles Lowe, our show producer, Robert Battles, and podcast publishing guru, Odell Bodie. Of course, our thanks to Ariva Martin, the host of Ariva Martin in Real Time. You can listen to her at 4 p.m. Pacific time. I almost said Eastern. 4 p.m. Pacific time, weekdays, right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Godspeed to you and to all the folks you represent with the Section 14 case in Palm Springs. Please come back again soon to give us an update.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to each and every one of you. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. You've been listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.